Yes, welcome. This is how we built the space in which you are having this convention. Welcome, let's get meta. I especially put in a really impressive amount of effort into putting this together. It took a lot longer than we expected, and I think both of us picked up a new skill in the process, and we're going to tell you all about it. And the first thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about is I wanted to talk very briefly about what happened internally when we had to make the decision to postpone our in-person convention to 2022 and how we came to the conclusion of doing this in exchange. I think we knew fairly early on that having a convention in Montreal was going to be a bit of a problem. And we've talked a little bit about this on the Slack, but because of the way hotel contracts work, we couldn't actually move on that knowledge until a lot later. And so a lot of the stuff that you've enjoyed all over the past week really took place in the last 6 months, because that is how long it took us to be able to tell our hotel that the Canadian border is going to be closed. No. And so can you make sure to mute your mic if you are not me or please? Thank you. And so, when we made that decision, which was a hard and frustrating decision, we all kind of really wanted to still be able to see you all and do something for you all. And we'd seen over the last few months, people had started to do virtual conventions, and we had seen a lot of options for that. And we knew we wanted to do something like that, but we didn't have a good sense of what we wanted it to look like. We could have done, I believe Flights of Foundry did theirs all on YouTube and Discord. And so there was a Discord for people to hang out in, and then all of the panels would just take place on YouTube. And we, we could have done Zoom webinars. That was another option. But we also, one of the things that we know about this convention and this community is that the unstructured time and the ability to have casual interactions with your friends, with other attendees, with other members of this community is really important to us, and it's really important to all of you. It's a really important part of the convention. And when we schedule our events for an in-person convention, we try and structure the schedule. Sonia and Emma try and structure the schedule such that people still have time to have casual time with their friends, play games, have a meal without having to worry about missing some of the programming. And so when we were going into this virtual convention, we were all really sad about potentially losing that. And we really wanted to, if at all possible, find a platform that we could host it on that would still let you all, interact instead of watch us all stand on screen and talk. And so with that in mind, we kind of sent out into the wild to be like, hi, what are our options?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of things I looked through. I think Gather was kind of always the first one on our list, I believe, because I think it was Emma that had already attended a virtual convention built in Gather. So looked at that, looked at a bunch of other things. There were some other similar to Gather ones, like one that was like 3D ran in your browser as well, but you had like a a 3D model avatar running around and a couple other things. But yeah, basically Gather turned out to be the most mature platform that wasn't just a Twitch stream or a YouTube live stream or just a Zoom call or something like that. So yeah, that's kind of how we ended up on Gather as like, the pixel art aesthetic was really cute and we thought we could work with that because like even the 3D one, even if it were kind of comparable with other features, it still just kind of looked not as kind of sleek and cute and nice. So yeah, that's kind of how we ended up on Gather. And then that's kind of when the design process started.
Mm-hmm. And we when we started the design process, one of the things that we were really thinking about was how can we, because Gather actually provides you with a lot of preset stuff. They have whole rooms. There's an escape the room game that you can play on, that you can put in your space and play on Gather. And we really wanted to do something custom that would feel like a little more magical and a little more exciting. And Amy, our designer, had put together. Hi, Amy, I see you. Um, had put together some really nice stuff for our branding, and we wanted to do something that would speak to the branding that Amy had put together because it's. Have you seen the website? It's beautiful. And um and also like speak to the sort of to something a little more fantastical than a hotel but virtual. um and so a lot of the early design stuff was actually work. And I got together and we did some hunting for objects that we could use in addition to the stuff that Gather gave us. Some of which was actually quite good. For example, in this room, and I will show you shortly. In this room, like the chairs you are sitting on come from Gather. The whiteboard and the water cooler and even that funky purple tree come from Gather. And the no, I get to take credit for the rug.
No, you definitely take credit for the rug. Yes, Gather gave you a solid color block.
Solid color block with a line around the edge.
Yes. And then you made that look,
yeah,
10,000% more fancy.
Yeah. And so I used to be a teacher, and so did a lot of work while waiting for me to get out of school because I had wanted to learn how to do pixel art for my own hobbies because I want to be a game designer, but I just did not have the time and energy to devote to it until after I finished the school year, which was hellish. And so is actually responsible for a lot for the hexagonal walls, which I used as a model for every other hexagon in the space because they're good.
Yeah, those, we'll get to that. Those took me a while. I hope y'all like trigonometry because we are going to have to get into that.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to just go into like showing off the art?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, give me 1 second. So I don't actually have the original sprite sheet that sent me, but I have some of the other ones, and I will show them to you now as soon as I can figure out how to screen share. Select window or screen. Oh my goodness. A sprite. Allow. We're going to go ahead and make that big. So this is an example. So this is a program called Sprite. It is a program that is specifically designed for making pixel art.
I'm not seeing your screen share.
Oh, fuck. It's the cameras. Oh, right. Okay. We can solve this. I'm going to go and I'm going to, I've figured it out.
There we go. Yeah.
I had to use the camera because it's on my other computer.
Oh dear. Okay. Well,
it's fine. It works. It works great.
Fine. Yeah.
It works great. OBS is happy, and that is what matters. So this is an example of one of the sheets that Gather gives you. And this is a program called Sprite, which is designed for making pixel art. You can see it has a grid on it. It has a 32 by 32 grid because Gather's like all of the Gather stuff is built on things that size. Your little avatar fits in a 32 by 32 square, and everything else is built on the assumption that it will be a 32 by 32 square. And so we did take some of these. For example, you can see, I know we used,
I think, yeah, we definitely used some of the tables here.
Yeah,
like,
I know we used some of these tables down here.
Yeah, and then the desk to the right, I actually used the half without the little drawer as some of the tables in the cafe, just because I like the look of those better than some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm. This is the staff desk.
Yeah, that's the staff desk.
And I believe this is the counter in the library, or did you do something different?
I think that's the same one. I mean, like, all those ones are just palette swaps of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some of the little round tables. This was up on the main stage for our panelist. And so some of these are very good. And perfectly functional. And so, but the other thing that we wanted to find, I don't have all of them, but I do have some of them because I used some of them, is we went on itch.io because itch.io, and if you're building a Gather space, itch.io has a lot of free resources for so TP Tigger, a palette swap is when you take the same object and you don't actually redo the object, you just change the colors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a reference to like a painting palette where, like, if you're doing a paint by numbers and it gives you specific colors for specific numbers, imagine if you changed what the colors were but not the mapping of colors to numbers, like, you'd still get the same thing. Like, I think in the original Super Mario Bros., like, Luigi was just a palette swap of Mario. They took where there was red and changed it to green, and otherwise they are identical. The shapes are all identical, it's just the colors.
And that's a technique that I used here a lot because it saved me time. For example, the floor in the main lobby and the floor in the in Tir na Nog are palette swaps of each other. I did not redraw them. I just went in with a paint bucket tool and went to town. But the other thing we did is we went on itch.io and we tried to find some stuff that we could use to make things a little more exciting and a little more fantastical. And so I don't have the ones that we used a lot of, but this is this is the treasure chest that is for our thank you donors, and also where you can buy a badge for next year. Wink, wink. I have a sheet, and the person who made this sheet made it available for free and made it available under a license where it's fine if I make money off it, which is something that you do have to keep into consideration. But they made a sheet that was 32 by 32, which is this one, which is what I used for the wait, no, what did I do? No, I might still have used. No, I did use a 32 by 32 one for the donor thing. I think the one on the desk might be 16 by 16. And like 16 by 16, this is a sprite sheet of other objects that I recolored and used. This is not the recolored version, but you'll recognize the books from the merch table and like the stacks of coins from the tip jar, and also the stacks of coins and the there's a present in here, some present that I recolored and I put around the donor thank you. And 16 by 16s are really good, even though they're too small to use. Like if I had a 16 by 16 table, it would look really bad. But a 16 by 16 stack of coins looks really great on a 32 by 32 table. It looks a little something like this. And here's the merch table. And here's like the donor thank you. And you can see I put it on a stretch of the counter for so that didn't have to place it itself, because when it talks about what it did, there is a very strict grid system for what it did, and so where you can place things is determined by where an object is in one of these blue squares. For example, with this treasure chest over here, like if you wanted to place it, if I had wanted to place it like halfway across something, I would have had to make one like this that was halfway across something.
Mm-hmm. And there's technically workarounds around that, but not very great ones. I'll mention that if someone can remind me when we get to my section.
I will do that. Other things that we found on itch.io are things like the fonts, because Gather does let you put text in into your space, but they do not have pixel fonts. And using a pixel font, which itch.io has plenty of them, you can search the tag for them. A lot of them are free or often free. They don't get blurry. And when you put in like Calibri or Cambria or Times New Roman into your Gather space, it blurs because they're made at a different resolution. They're made with like a different number of squares.
Yeah, which is, I think Gather could not do, because fonts are vector files. I think it's like the rendering a vector file at 12 point and then upscaling it to 32 point, and that just doesn't look good.
Yeah, well, we will salt later.
I'm getting points to pixels conversion mixed up, but anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like this is the main rug from the actually I do have a really good example of what that looks like, because the CC logo, what I did was I made it I had Amy export me one that was the size I needed, and I went in to look at it and I redrew it, and you can see as I
yeah, you can see the fuzz.
Let's slap this on a background real quick so it's a little easier to see. I never remember how I'm supposed to move these down. I figure it out and then I forget how I did it. Okay, we'll do this the dumb way then because it's faster. If I wanted to like put a background on this so that it's a little more visible, you can see how it gets really fuzzy, and you can see how like a bunch of the pixels are transparent because it was having a really hard time with the edges at that size. And so when I wanted to put that on the rug, I went and redrew it. I went and I did it by not by hand entirely, but I went through and I made sure that everything was the correct size and everything was like properly symmetrical, and I had lights and darks where I wanted them. Thank you. They did it for me.
But still very, very good looking.
Yeah. And so here is the sheet of a lot of the other assets. I'm going to get rid of the grid so it's a little easier on your eyes for a bit. And so what I did for these gave me this wall. And it wasn't originally like this. It was just gray with a little stripe on it. And so I'm going to show you a little bit of some of the techniques that I used. And if I spend more than like 10 minutes on this, please hit me with a cattle prod.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
And yeah, just for reference, the original wall is what's being used in the library and the parking lot, I believe. And also,
yeah, I ran out of time to make you walls for the library.
That's okay. There was enough else going on in the library.
Yeah. And there was a lot going on in the library. And so one of the things that I like about Sprite as a beginner digital artist is having the entire RGB spectrum at my fingertips was really overwhelming. And so one of the things that I really enjoy about this is I really enjoyed that I have a background as a traditional artist. And so I got to make myself some of this comes with Gather, or not with Gather, with Sprite, and some of this I added. You can kind of tell because the colors stop being in nice gradients. But I basically have a box of crayons. And so when I was working with this, I was working with a box of crayons. And so it lets you pick 2 colors at a time. Somebody shout out 2 colors for me. Or like, okay, so purple. What's our second color?
Purple and orange.
Purple and orange. Wonderful. So I'm going to pick this purple and this orange. And you can see down here in the bottom left, I have a foreground color and a background color. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make myself, well, first of all, I'm going to zoom in a little so that I can see what I am doing. And doing this without the grid is a little dicey. And I'm going to make a little 3 by however many rectangle. And then I went over here and I took the gradient tool. I'm giving up all of my secrets. And I'm going to just sort of pull it up, and that's how I made the gradients for the walls. I would do that, and then I would take a
I see.
A 2x2 strip, which fits. It's too tall, but you get the idea, perfectly in here, and then I would just copy and paste them all the way up.
Honestly, that purple orange is really good.
It is. I'm gonna leave that there for
something.
Maybe I should have put that in the library. There's also like the line tool is my friend. I had a lot of fun with the blur tool. If you guys are interested after the panel, I will it's fine, I'll get it back. I will fish out some of my earlier drafts of some of the floors where I got really excited about the blur tool because it was making my life a lot easier. And poor Amy, who again does art for a living, had to listen to me just slide into her DMs all excited like, hey, guess what? I found out how to use layers today. Which happened 5 days before the convention.
Oh, okay. Maybe didn't need to say that, but
okay. I was mostly done at that point. It was just a lot harder than it needed to be. You thoroughly enjoyed those DMs? I thought I was taking I thought I was taking some time off your life when I had to tell you that I didn't know how to find the layers in here, and I wasn't going to take the time to do it. This is where I made the floors. The floors, I would make a little square, and then I would tell Gather to tile it so that I could have a better sense of what I wanted to do with them. And so, oh yeah, that's a slightly different draft. This is, as you all will no doubt recognize, this is the floor that we are actually in right now. And I wanted to give a little demo of how nope, wrong one. Where's my Devenviro for floors? And this is where I did a lot of the hexagons. There were a lot of things that I would like draw in a separate sheet so that I could mess up if I needed to. And then copy paste into the document. And this was things like that. I have like the platform that the gate hexes were on, which was the last thing I did because it gave me a ton of trouble. Because I couldn't get a pattern back here that wasn't so busy that it looked bad with the hex. And then I would just slap it on top of the floors it was supposed to be on so that I could check the colors. I basically I started with the rugs, and that sort of became the basis for the color palettes for the rest of every room. And as you can see, we kind of have things, well, no, actually those two go together, loosely stacked. And there are a lot of things in this sheet that are just kind of wherever I could fit them within the grid. And I put text in to tell where to put them. But yeah. A lot of it was trial and error. Like, there was some stuff that I did at the very beginning before I started where I was just trying to get like a feel for the program. Open. No. Give me, no. One document. Pixel. Cursed Babby Pixels. Like, this is the first thing I ever made. It is a mug. and so like a lot of this was trial and error, a lot of making things look good in the space was trial and error. I would send something to and be like, hey, can you just throw this in the space so that I can see how it all looks together? And then I would take it back and I would tweak it a little. And yeah. Knowing what you're doing is helpful for saving time, but so much is just, this isn't quite right. Let's futz for it some more. Yeah. Yes. Honestly, there is stuff I still would have liked to futz with, but at some point you have to stop.
Same here.
Yeah. Anyway, I think I'm going to hand it over to you to show people what you did with these.
Sure. Yeah, I think I'm gonna
let me. Yeah.
Do entire screens. We need to switch between programs as well. So I want to take people through just basically a progress kind of in linear time, how things work. So this Google Doc I'm showing you right now is a design doc that I kind of mostly used earlier in the design process. Last edited on June 3rd. After this point, I was kind of just constantly doing stuff in Tiled. The program would be showing you later. But yeah, this is what the space looked like on June 1st. This was all that the hub was. Event hall had nothing. And yeah, actually the park, I guess that little bit in the center is basically unchanged in the current thing. But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the park looked very good very early because that was one of the ones that we got assets from
Yeah.
itch.io.
Yeah, the bunch of these assets are from Itch, and also is like the park was the one that I had the most ideas for early on. I mean, I think that's still kind of obvious in the final product. Like the social spaces have the most detail because they're the ones that I had the most ideas for by far. But yeah, that's what it looked like on June 1st. You'll notice, speaking of hexagons, going to talk about those for a while. The walls in here, like the shape of the rooms are hexagons, but like they don't look good. So like what I was working with at this point, maybe I'll show this a little bit when we get to tiled, was so in the kind of default assets we got from Gather, there were some diagonal walls. I don't know how much more I can really zoom in, but like these diagonal walls here, like they're at 45-degree angles because the assets there that they gave you are built kind of for like octagonal rooms basically. So like I tried making those hexagons work just with the assets that I already had. That didn't kind of end up working. So that's where this room size kind of section of the dock comes in. So I ended up doing a lot of plugging things into Wolfram Alpha and relearning all the trigonometry I did in like grade 11, trying to remember how hexagons worked, what the internal angles would be, worrying about aspect ratios at times. I don't really know why I wanted these formulas because I didn't end up using any of them in the final thing. Because yeah, Gather has, I don't know where they're. Yeah, Gather has recommendations. Actually, I don't really to look at that of like how much space you should have or like how big your rooms should be based on the number of people you expect to have. I think it's like approximately 20 tiles per person, so like roughly a 4x4 to a 5x5 square per person, just to prevent things from feeling cramped. So all that math was based on that, and then I never really ended up using those numbers because in the final space people are cramped way closer together than a 4x4 square each when you're sitting in the main hall attending an event, because you don't need space to walk around, you just need a chair to sit on. So a lot of this math ended up being thrown out. But yes, it turns out 128-degree angle walls, which is just what a perfect regular hexagon looks like, ended up looking the best. Who would have thought? Yeah. So yeah, that's that. I want to also show. Yes, so this gather space, if you see the URL, you'll notice it says CrossingsCon 2021 staging. This was what the space looked like, I think, like late June, early July. This was like the first time I had actually tossed things into Gather. Most of the stuff was just sitting in tiled at that point. So yeah, like this is what a breakout room looked like. This is the carpet that Gather gave us, and Masha turned it into what we got now. The chairs are still the same. Yeah, the walls are the base that we got and still use in the library. If I go to the library, this one actually changed a lot because the layout changed entirely. Yeah, the library went through a couple drafts just because wanted to have the bookshelves, but trying to make it not feel cramped while also kind of still being symmetrical took me a while. Yes, yeah, the cafe was extremely boring. The cat wasn't on a table then. I guess the cafe building itself didn't change much. Yeah, I don't think there's really much else to show off. I think in this version, actually, the park is pretty similar to what it was in the end. Yeah, you'll notice that these very placeholdery paths on the ground that are just RGB 255s, a bunch of places. Like, yeah, the park is pretty similar to the final thing, just, oh, okay. There, I did put some of the invisible walls in, but not well, it seems. Yeah. Oh, I think, right. I think I didn't want people to be able to walk on the trees because, yeah, I didn't do the layering because, yeah, I did. Okay, I did put the invisible walls just in the park because, it's still the one I like the most. But yeah, if I go, let me show you Gather's map maker. Real quick, let me close that because it messes up the scrolling. So, yeah, this is the version of the park in the staging one. So like these red tiles are the impassable stuff, so don't want people walking outside of the hexagon on the trees at that point because didn't get to the layering gate, don't want people walking in the water, etc. The green spaces don't really get used, but these are, so yeah, the green spaces are tiles where people will enter if they spawn into the room. So most of the time, the only times those are used are like the direct links that we have in the calendar that you use to like teleport to rooms for events, and gather those use those. And like if you get stuck and use the respawn feature, you'll go there. Those blue tiles on top of the blue stuff is teleportation, so that goes back to the main hub, etc., etc. So yeah, like most of what you see here is just, so there's a couple ways you edit things. So the main thing I ended up using was just these upload background, upload foreground. So like this walls and floors things I never use because it deletes, you can't have a background and also use walls and floors. So the main thing I ended up using was that background, the tile effects, because you kind of can't not have, oh yeah, there's no private areas in the park right now, but that's where those go. Spotlights are a different color. So the main thing that like the gather editor wants you to use is objects. So there's a bunch of stuff in here. Some of these things are in the tile sheets that gather gives you. They have a GitHub repository that I have open if anyone wants to link to it. A lot of this stuff isn't in the GitHub repository, and also there's stuff in the GitHub repository that isn't in this. I don't know why why they're not equal, or at least one's a subset of the other. But anyways, like, so I can put stuff in here, and this is, you see in this object interactions panel, like a bunch of the embedded videos are actually, there's just a invisible blank object. So I just kind of slap that on whatever to make those kind of Easter eggs. Just put an embedded video on like the rock for the puffins, etc. So like I can, if I clear that, I can toss an acoustic guitar in here. No interaction, like I can just put it down. But like by default, if I save that, I think the guitar should be there now. Actually, I probably have to walk around this way, don't I? But like by default, you can just walk over it. That kind of interaction isn't there. And also like this map maker is fine, but not really the best way of doing things. Like it's fine. So like what Gather recommends is a program called Tiled, and this is where I did the vast majority of everything. Like I think a couple of the very late additions. Oh, right. Show you that in a sec. So like the calendar for the unconvention schedule, I just quickly did in Gather because like uploading, like editing stuff in Tiled, going file, export as image, exporting the image, naming it _background because I wanted it as a background and not a foreground, because in Gather there's 2 layers, so you can have like lighting and stuff above you. So like the water, if you go into the water in the park, how there's kind of a blue haze above you, that's like the main place I use the foreground. There's a couple other things. Yeah, like that whole process, it's fine. It's as fast as can be, but it still takes a while. So like I did a couple of the, oops, that's the wrong Chrome tab, a couple of the spot fixes in Gather's editor, but the vast majority of these things are just from Tiled, just because there's tools to make things a lot easier. Like, yeah.
And also,
catch my breath.
And also putting things in Tiled meant that could implement any updates that I had fairly easily because, as I mentioned, we went through, you probably remember from the screenshots that we shared with like the Gather tutorial, it looked a little different, or when we announced it, it looked a little different. As long as I did not move anything in the tile sheet, which is why you have like little text onlys squeezed anywhere that they fit. If as long as I did not move anything where it already was, I could change it however I wanted, and it would just update automatically into Tiled and didn't have to do any extra work. And so like if I wanted to say change the color of the library wayfinding rug, I could just do that and an updated file and it would just go.
Yeah, like I just go here, edit the image. Yeah, I've been naming them with semantic versioning. The one we ended up using is, I guess, version 1.8. But yeah, so like this folder is just all of the different kind of things I ended up using for, all the tile sheets that I got that weren't pre-made by Gather. Those are in a different folder. But yeah, I see. I don't know what happened to versions 1.1 through 1.2, but if I
pull up 1.3.
Yeah, if I quickly do that, hit OK. See the
yeah, you can see what the tiles used to look like.
Yeah. Yeah. If I go back to, okay, yeah, so that happens, I guess. We did move things around on the sheet, but
I did move things around a little bit because um
yeah, this was actually, you moved things around because this was before I realized I could do that edit thing,
yeah,
so I didn't tell you to move things
yeah,
around. Yeah.
yeah,
Or I
but
didn't tell you to not move things around.
yeah,
So yeah, like you can see in, I guess, yeah, this is Wonderland. Don't worry about the stuff where it did get moved around, but like the floor is, like the pieces of the floor are a lot smaller, kind of end up looking a little busy. So yeah, that was the one of the
yeah.
ones that
And
Masha
I
tested
was
on.
using the blur tool instead of an actual proper dithered gradient, because what I was trying to go for is I was trying to make it look like colored glass, and so I wanted it to glow, and it did, and that was not a good thing.
Let me put that back to 1.8, and everything's fixed. Beautiful. So yeah, let's see. What can I talk about here? Like, trying to think. Like, yeah. So how Tiled works is, I guess, kind of similar to both Sprite and like a more conventional photo editor like Photoshop. Like, I have tools up here. Got a paint bucket. Got like a rectangle select. So if I or rectangle placement. So if I just want a whole bunch of things that say Tir Nanog, I can do that. Et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, those tools are primarily why this was a lot easier to do in Tiled than in Gather. So like, for example, all these chairs in Gather, I would have to, actually, you know what, let me demonstrate that. I want to do that in Gather. Let me search chair. Sure. Select, I can place it like this, but that's a manual click every time. And like, going back to objects that I've used previously is really annoying, especially with custom created ones, because they only show up in these like 6 most recent ones. So if I use a 7th thing, I've lost a custom object. Like this more objects panel doesn't save the things that I've created manually. No idea why. But yeah, so like I can have to click manually for those chairs, for example, versus here. What layer did I put them on? Probably on furniture. Yep, like for each of these tables, I did that. I can just go create a bunch more of those exact tables. A couple times, I guess, yeah, the table and the chairs are on slightly different layers. So they get the chair in front of that little bit of the table leg, if you can tell that. There's a reason I have a lot of layers. Yeah, I also ended up grouping the layers by background and midground so that for the kind of foreground stuff I was talking in Gather, I can just turn off the midground and the background. This is the only thing that's on the foreground. Yes, that little fucking nub of coin is on the foreground just so that you can walk behind it. I don't know why that corner of wall is missing. And then
that's
reverse.
because that's where the
oh right, yeah, that's where the little, yeah, this corner took me like a solid 5 minutes just to figure out how to work and make the perspective of everything look fine. And then yeah, like turn off the foreground, do everything else for the background layer so that everything works well, so that, you know, we can have things like this where the wall is in front of the carpet. And you'll notice that if you go here in the hub, you can walk behind the wall but be in front of the carpet. That's kind of the main reason for that. And then yeah, I end up needing a lot more layers internally. Like I think if I go to, oh yeah, there's a lot of layers there actually. But if I go to the library, that's probably one of the ones that's going to have a lot. Actually, not as many as I expected. Yeah, Park has a lot of layers just to make everything work. Actually, let me turn the grid off. Don't know why I wasn't doing that before. So yeah, just to make things like, you know, the skyline and then all the planets. I don't think you can actually see that one because of screen sizes and the blackness behind, and then you have the walls down here. Then this little railing things are a separate thing. Then you need the grass, then the sand's on top of the grass, and then yeah, it just kind of builds up from there. Yeah.
So we have a little time. Does anyone have any questions? Let me move my camera inside the square so that we hear your questions.
Okay, yeah. I used Tiled, I used Sprite.
Yes,
so.
Sprite. It is spelled ASEPRITE. I can type it. I believe they have a trial, but it is paid.
Mm-hmm. Tiled is free, and I think it's also like it's the one that Gather recommended. I don't think Gather actually mentions Sprite at all. Yeah, it's the one that Gather recommended, and I think it's also the software that like the levels for like Shovel Knight, for example, are made in tiled. So like it is professional quality. I don't know
Yeah.
if there's a paid tier that gives you more than what I was working with, but the free tier, if there even is a paid tier, was plenty enough.
Yeah, and Aseprite is also professional grade. It part of the reason it took me so long that I could learn to use layers is because I had been following some game developers who use it on Twitch, and I had learned from there that the purpose of layers is to create animation, which we did not have time to investigate.
I think Gather doesn't support everything's a PNG. There's no GIFs that you can use for
and so I didn't I was like, oh yes, layers are for animation, and so I will do all of my drawing in the same layer.
Yeah.
And Amy will look at me like I'm crazy. But it is also professional grade. It does a lot of really nice things. It's to draw in. It does you can do it in like grayscale or RGB color. I think this one is actually ended up in RGB color because of the gradients. But when I go over to this one, the color mode is indexed because it's just using the box of crayons that I made. I say as if you could see my screen for that. Sorry.
That's right.
Yeah, and Abigail asked in Slack whether the gather space will be available after the convention. It should still be open for a little bit if you want to walk around and look around. We haven't quite decided how long we want to leave it up and if we want to do like tours like this panel for people who couldn't make this panel where we talk about how we made it. We haven't had this discussion because we're focused on making the convention happen. Yeah. But it should be open for a little bit if you want to like hang out and look around and show off.
Like tentatively at least the next couple of weeks. I don't know, maybe we can say end of the month just as a nice round date, but then we'll see after that. Very tentative. We haven't made a decision yet.
Yeah. Gather is also has a free and paid tier, and the main difference between the free and paid tiers is capacity.
Yeah. And so by default, the free tier has capacity for 25 people simultaneously. So like what that means is like they only allocate so many servers for 25 people. You can have a 26 person join the space, just the quality and like the lag or like the latency for video and audio calls will just progressively go downwards as you go past 25, 30. I don't know by how much because we haven't tested, but presumably significantly.
What put Gather above the other platforms that we looked at? If I recall correctly, it was a combination of price, ease of use, and customizability, as well as just being better at meeting our needs.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Like Gather, like we have kind of a lot of feedback for Gather after this convention, but like when I was looking through,
we have so much feedback for Gather after the convention.
Yeah, but like I was kind of like looking through the help centers for a bunch of these things, and like most of the ones I ran across the help centers was like the 101, here's how you walk around, here's how you join audio calls, and that's it. Whereas Gather had like multiple pages about accessibility, had a bunch of stuff about specifically map making, had a bunch of stuff about like planning your event, how you should be designing your maps, and like that kind of spoke to me of like that combined with the customizability of like a lot of the other platforms were just mostly stock things and also like might have had a similar editor, but I guess Gather was the only one that said like, hey, go use this other program, it's better. We will say that outright, it's better, go use that if you want a very custom space. And then that's how I found Tiled and how I got on that. And that combined with like a couple things like, even though we had feedback for Gather on their moderation tools, at least they have them. Other platforms did not have moderation tools, period.
A lot of these platforms have popped up in the wake of the pandemic, trying to fill the niche for one, remote work, or two, schools. And those and people are really only starting to branch out into realizing that, this is a nice place to host a birthday party. That's one of Gather's default spaces that they give you, is a place to host a birthday party or host a convention. And so one of the things that you run into a lot when a space is built primarily with co-working at a company or or teaching in a classroom in mind is they don't have the kinds of tools available for like moderation on the internet, because they are operating under the assumption that you have, say, an HR department. And so any problem that would happen in the space with another user is not their problem, which is false. And so even though
Operating.
Gathers I'm not even talking about necessarily, and like it doesn't necessarily even have to be rude, but like the ability to like tell someone to turn their mic off, and like we had this happen during a panel earlier where we like I left somebody left their mic on, and we just like bumped them from the space because they wouldn't turn their mic off and it was disruptive. And like we weren't really, and so like having the ability to just do small things like that is really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about needing there to be moderation tools, it's not because we thought that like anything would go wrong, because we've done this for 4 years and we know this community. But there are things about moderation tools that like would have made the space more accessible. For example, like the ability for a moderator to mute the entire room would have been really nice. Chat deletion would have been really nice. As you all are like
functionality, if like for like I had to put in the gather information section, like, hey, if you're being harassed by somebody, which hopefully I think didn't really happen at the con, like, yes, obviously come talk to staff and we'll deal with it, but also you can block.
Like obviously they have a long way to go, and we did get to talk to them directly a fair amount, because the other thing that put them at the top of our list is their customer service is incredibly responsive. And so if you come in with a feature request that is like essential to your event, like obviously tech development takes some time, but there were a couple of things that we got to use in our space for the convention that were not here when we were asking them for a price quote that they put in because we asked. And so
I'll say, like,
that was really cool.
Yeah, if you're interested in playing more with Gather and seeing what else you can do with it, like there is a community Discord server where people are like, just talking about like spaces they're making, giving links to that, giving screenshots. There's even like a jobs channel for like people hiring sprite artists or level designers, if that's your thing. But yeah, it's kind of cool to see that, and like see like there are Gather, like this is an official thing. There are Gather staff in there, as far as I can tell, daily, like interacting with the community and like providing feedback, chatting with people about feature requests, which is really cool to see.
Yeah. And so like it met our needs the best. It had it was in our price range. It was highly customizable, and their team, even though it is like a young program at a small team, had a lot more going for it, and we're a lot more responsible, and we're at least going in the right direction on a lot of things. Yeah, we probably have time for about one more question. If there is one.
You can also turn your mic on, do something.
Yeah, you can also turn your mic on and just yell.
Oh,
Talk about / show the meet the author spaces. So
I mean, I don't think
you
there's
are
actually.
standing in one.
Yeah,
Um,
there's not much to show like that. Yeah, that portal that goes to the author space is just an exact copy of this, except without that second portal that would loop in on itself. Like the original
mhm,
plan was, yeah, I guess one of those things that we didn't have quite enough time to fully, test out before the convention was kind of running. Of like, how do we prevent anyone other than the person who won the raffle to get into the author space? It was originally going to just take place in the very base rooms like the one we're in now. I just added that in as password block thing to
mhm,
how I had to do it was in another space that's just a carbon copy of this one.
mhm. And so if you walk onto that portal to go to the meet the author space, you will find yourself in an exact copy of this room. You just
Yeah.
have to put a password in to get in.
Yeah, I could turn the password off real quick if people want to take a look, I guess, but yeah.
But it's literally the exact same.
It's literally the exact same thing, and I think yeah, I think the portal out takes you all the way back to the hub as
Mm-hmm.
well. Technically, oh no, I guess
No, it
no,
doesn't.
it wouldn't. Yeah,
Or at least the one in Wonderland doesn't.
yeah, it's just because it won't because of how the portaling between spaces works. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it'll just put you back where you were the last time you were in
Mm-hmm.
the
We have a staff room that functions the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Well, um,
I think that about wraps things up.
that about wraps it up. Yeah, this is how we made this. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Mhm.
It it was really, we did a lot. Like I showed you the mug.
Mhm.
Like you all saw the mug. Like I started this summer not knowing how to do this at all, and now we have a very nice convention center, and also is like new to tile, and you know it one of honestly one of the most fun things about planning this convention as a whole that I really enjoy is that like we have a lot of opportunities to just sort of, if there's a problem, be like, I bet I could learn how to fix that. And
Yeah.
so and that's like, there's definitely some drawbacks to this year and to having to have a virtual convention that we are all very cognizant of, but it's been really but it's also been really fun in a lot of ways because it feels because we're just like trying things and learning things and putting things together in a really new and exciting way. Yes, there is going to be a post-convention survey. Please keep an eye out for it on our social media, or you can sign up for our newsletter for news about future CrossingsCon. The link is on the pinned message in the chat, and it does actually copy paste out. Very nice. Or you can do it at the staff desk. There's also our as I mentioned, you can buy a badge for next year. And when we will be having the convention in Montreal, Canada, in a real 3-dimensional hotel that I don't have to paint.
Presumably not. No.
Yeah. And that is at register.crossingscon.org, or there is a treasure chest on the staff desk, or you can also support us at the pile of coins with a one-time donation, or buy a book plate signed by your favorite guest of honor at the stack of books on the table. You'll have to paint it if the bill won't be paid. The bill will be paid.
Yes.
The bill will be paid. Yeah, thank you all for coming.